Un mundo tan desafiante, nuestro reto es ser la luz, dar amor día con día.
Ven y seamos esperanza, testimonio.
Bueno, entonces sin más, pues vamos a presentar a Nicki y Sila. Nicki y Sila Lee son un matrimonio. Con casi más de 40 y... How many years of marriage? 46, imagínense que aguante, ¿no? Y ellos han trabajado desde hace muchos años con parejas. Tenemos el gusto de conocerlos desde el 2015. Tuvimos la gran dicha de estar con ellos en su casa, en la casa en donde empezó el curso en 3 sillas, con 6 parejas, con 3 parejas más bien. 6 sillas con 3 parejas. Y bueno, ellos...
Se sentaba cada quien en las piernas.
Ellos empezaron este curso desde hace...
Pueden acomodarse.
20 y pico de años y realmente ha sido magnífico. Trabajan alrededor del mundo, hicieron el curso y lo pasaron a video y el video fue un hitazo. En 2015 empezaron con esos videos. Este curso se ha traducido a infinidad de idiomas, entre ellos el chino. El gobierno chino está encantado trabajando, fomentando la unión matrimonial. Y claro, quizá ahí no se habla mucho de Dios, pero eso no importa si la familia es fuerte, eso es lo más importante. Y ellos tienen un gran corazón por el matrimonio.
Entonces, sin más, los dejamos con nuestros presentadores, bueno, más bien nuestros conferencistas, Nicki y Sila.
Thank you to Pablo and Anna. We have no idea what they were saying about us. They could have told you anything.
I want to tell you they are a wonderful couple, Pablo and Anna. We have known them for many years.
And we're just wanting to say welcome to this session. And normally when we run the marriage course in our church in London, we create a really romantic setting. So you have to imagine a really romantic setting, like going out on a date to a restaurant. You are sitting at a table for 2 and it's low lighting, there's background music, we serve you something to eat, and it's just you as a couple. You are sitting at a table for 2 and the whole evening is just for you as a couple to invest in your marriage. And so I know it's not exactly like that here today, but what we would say is try to imagine this is time out for you as a couple to invest in your relationship. This is not a lecture. This is not us kind of, I don't know, teaching you and you're in a class. This is you in your relationship having time out.
And the marriage course, it's an experience, and we want to give you a taste of that experience today. Can we see how many people have done the marriage course in the past? Okay, about half of you, something like that. And some people do it in person, like Sila described. Some people now can do it online. But if they do it online, we encourage them to create a romantic setting in their own home when they do it. And the aim of the course is to strengthen the connection between you as a couple, or to restore the connection if you feel that you've lost it. And the course is applicable for any couple, however long or shorter time they've been together, whether they consider they have a strong marriage or if they're struggling, and whether or not they are active members of the church. During the course, we talk quite a bit about ourselves, so we thought we'd start by telling you how we met. I was 18 years old, and I was going on holiday with my family to Ireland, and you have to go on a car ferry to get to Ireland from England. And I got to the car ferry, I was in the queue, and there was a girl who was trying to take a sticker off the car in front of mine. And I sat and watched her for several minutes. I was absolutely fascinated by her. And then a great friend of mine came to the car window and said, Nicki, I want to introduce you to my friend Sila. And she introduced me to this girl who was trying to get the sticker off the back of the car. Well, I was even more intrigued when I started to talk to her. And we ended up on holiday in next-door holiday cottages for 2 weeks. And I fell madly in love. But I didn't know what Sila felt.
And I too had fallen madly in love, but I didn't know what Nicki felt, if he felt anything about me. So we spent 2 weeks together, falling more and more for each other. And only on the day before I was about to go home did we realise that the feelings were mutual. And so as a result, we started going out.
That was 50 years ago.
Yeah, this year.
And 2 months. So
Yeah, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And then,
oh, just to tell you, 50 years ago, I had a
I
lot
was
of
talking.
hair.
I
I had a lot of hair 50 years ago.
We talked on the second session of the course about not interrupting your partner.
Sorry.
I just wanted to say, so we started going out, and then 4 years later, we got married.
Now, during the course, we give couples lots of time to talk as couples, and we want you to have your first conversation now. If you turn in here to the back, it is the second back page, you'll see conversation 1. And we want you just to take the next 5 minutes to tell each other your strongest memory of the first time that you met each other and what it was that first attracted you to each other. Can I ask, before you start talking, if you're here as a couple, can you make sure there is 2 chairs between you and the next door person? All right? Because it's very important your conversations are private. And as Pablo said, I think he said anyway, didn't understand it, but I think he said, or Anna, if you're here on your own, find someone else on their own to talk to. Thank you. Okay, you've got just 4 or 5 minutes for conversation 1.
The next time we give you a conversation, it'll actually be a bit longer, but we want to get started now. And the most important thing is that the marriage course is very practical. It's designed to equip couples with tools that we all need to make a healthy relationship and to create a connection between us as a couple. Now, during this course, from time to time, Nicki and I will talk very personally about the difference that our Christian faith has made in our marriage. But we are confident that whatever situation you are in, you as a couple are in, whether you have faith, whether you don't have faith, that you will find everything that we're going to be talking about relevant to you as a couple.
And the course is based on the premise that marriage gives the opportunity for the closest, most intimate human relationship possible. That's how it's put right at the start of the Bible. For this reason, a man will leave his mother and father and be joined to his wife, and they will become one flesh. And when we get married, our partner becomes our first loyalty. And we're joined together not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, even spiritually joined as one. Some people say, what about a parent and child? Isn't that a closer relationship? After all, a child starts life physically attached to his or her mother. But the task of parenting is to encourage increasing independence in a child until the child is able to live life independently of his or her parents. Marriage is altogether the other way around. It starts as two people who, one time, complete strangers. They meet, they fall in love, they get married, and they embark on this relationship that's designed to be one of increasing interdependence with each other. But that closeness isn't automatic. We have to keep working at our marriage if we're to stay closely connected. We filmed a number of experts talking about different aspects of marriage, and we want you to hear from one who is English, well, he's Welsh, actually, a man called Rob Parsons, and he's talking about this need for connection as a couple.
Una idea moderna es que el amor es solo un sentimiento y cuando desaparece podemos marcharnos. Pero te diré algo, a menos de que luches por mantener ese amor vivo, siempre vas a ir de relación en relación buscando a la persona perfecta que puede estar allá afuera. Yo escribo mis libros en una pequeña cabaña en Carmarthen-Day, en el oeste de Gales. Hace un par de años, creo que fue en agosto, era un hermoso día, iba caminando por la playa, las colinas se veían hermosas, la arena era divina. Y el océano se veía como si hubiera lanzado 1,000,000 de diamantes en la superficie. Cuando iba de regreso a la cabaña, me encontré con un pescador. Le dije, es idílico, ¿no? Tal vez estaba cansado de los turistas ese día y me respondió, deberías verlo en invierno. Honestamente, cuando caminé por la playa el siguiente día era igual de hermoso, pero sentí que el océano, la arena y las colinas me susurraban. ¿Nos amarás en invierno? El amor de invierno llega a todas las relaciones. Es extraordinario, con frecuencia me encuentro con parejas que están por separarse y deciden, lo volveremos a intentar, los veo 5 o 10 años después y se aman más de lo que creía posible. En retrospectiva dicen, ¿cómo pensamos en separarnos? Pero para eso tuvieron que superar esta idea moderna de que si no estás enamorado, debes alejarte.
Yesterday, when we were talking, we talked about a vineyard and a vine producing fruit. And on this first session of the marriage course, we use an analogy of tending a vineyard as an analogy for how we need to look after our marriage. There's a photograph, I hope we can show, of our daughter, and that's me. That is their vineyard that they tend on the south coast of England. And just to show the next 2 photographs, if you would. And, making wine is hard work. And all through the year, our daughter and our son and the team, they have to tend the vineyard. Now, there are 4 analogies that we use from the vineyard that we have to use if we are to tend our marriage, if we're to look after our marriage. Sila's going to do the first one.
And whatever age or stage or situation you're at, oh good. I think one of these stages will be relevant for you. So the first analogy is adjusting, and newly planted vines have to adjust to the new soil that they're in. And this process actually goes on for quite a long time. It takes about 3 years. And in a similar way, in the early years of a marriage, we have to adjust. We are adjusting from me living my life as I want to live my life, to we living life together with another person. And this adjusting is not an easy transition. So often, the initial infatuation lasts about anything from, I think, 3 minutes to 3 years. And once that has worn off, we've taken off those rose-tinted spectacles. Actually, we see each other in a new light. And often, the very things that attracted us to our partner initially suddenly become the things that annoy us about our partner. We filmed a number of couples all over the world, and they amazingly talked about their marriage and their own relationship, and we filmed them. And we want you to hear now from the first, we're going to show you a number through this session. And the first couple that we filmed are a couple called Dimas and Tiffany, and they live in New York City.
Nueva York.
Yo iba saliendo de la iglesia, ella iba entrando y tomé la puerta, tomé su mano, la estreché y me quedé sin palabras.
Una de las cosas más atractivas de Dimas es que es muy dinámico y carismático. Es como un imán. Cuando llega a un lugar y eso es fantástico, ¿no?
Me encanta, me atrae su fuerza. Ella es una mujer fuerte. Es una de las cosas que me atrajo de ella. De hecho, ella tiene muchas opiniones y es una intelectual. Sí, ella es apasionada por las cosas, y esas fueron las razones por las que dije, wow, la amo por esto, es fantástico, es la mujer que quiero. Pero hay días en que digo, wow, la pasión es intensa. Las opiniones son muy fuertes. Definitivamente hay cosas que atraen a una persona, y en ocasiones esas mismas cosas a veces son difíciles de manejar.
We can discover how different we are. When we discover how different we are as people, we can so easily start to try to change our partner to be like us. But I don't know about you, I know I have tried many times to change Nicki, but it just doesn't work. I have tried, let me give you some examples. I am still trying, actually it was very successful when we flew to Mexico. I'm still trying to get Nicki to leave more time to get to the airport to catch the plane.
And I'm still trying to persuade Sila we don't need so much time, it's fine.
I am still trying to get Nicki to wear any other colour than navy blue for his jumpers or his shirts, but I
just don't feel comfortable in another colour.
But you know, the universal principle in marriage is I can change myself, I can't change my partner. If we're to stay connected, this adjusting has to go on happening, not just at the beginning, but all the way through our marriage. Because, you know, change is a fact of life. It's inevitable. And the circumstances we live in will change. We will both change. And we have to keep adjusting in our relationship as those things happen. Now, your conversations during this course will help you to recognize where you each need to adjust in order to strengthen the connection in your relationship.
I want to go on to the second analogy, and that is pruning. And pruning is a very positive activity for the vine. And what pruning does is it prioritizes the most important branches and cutting off the other ones in order that you direct the vine's energies into the branches that are going to produce the most fruit. Otherwise, you get lots of leaves on the vine, but very little fruit. And a key skill in marriage is prioritizing. And that involves pruning back certain areas of our lives in order to prioritize another. Typically, as life goes on, we get busier and busier. If we have children, they take up a lot of time. Our work typically can get busier and busier. And you know, for couples who have children, so much time and energy can go into looking after the children that the marriage relationship gets neglected. But actually, when that happens, it is the children who suffer most. Because nothing is more important for a child's security than their parents' marriage. And I remember one man on the marriage course saying to me about halfway through the course, I just realized the best way to love my children is by loving my wife. And whatever the challenges, as life gets busier, we only survive as a couple if we prioritize our marriage relationship. Here are another of our, what we call sofa couples. They're called Will and Steph. That's not them, that's us.
Estoy casada con un hombre que trabaja bastante y a quien le gusta mucho su trabajo.
Yo soy abogado y demanda mucho tiempo. Creo que enfrentar eso es un área de trabajo continuo para los dos. Tenía un caso, exigía muchas horas. Teníamos que cumplir con una fecha. Y recuerdo con claridad que ella me llamó y me dijo, ¿tienes tiempo para hablar conmigo? Y le dije, no tengo. Volvió a intentarlo y contesté para decirle, no, ahora no puedo hablar. Y luego iba a cortar la llamada.
Yo me sentí muy abandonada porque tú sabes que tu pareja se irá pronto, pero no prevés que no tendrá tiempo ni para una llamada.
Necesito planear con anticipación y entender que tener responsabilidades laborales no significa que mis responsabilidades con mi esposa y con mi familia desaparecen en segundo plano.
Y las veces que nos hemos dado cuenta de que hacemos esto como individuos y no como un equipo o unidad es cuando nos hemos sentido muy aislados.
The third analogy from tending vines is supporting. Now, in order for vines to flourish, they need to be supported. And, you can't quite see it here, but they need a really good trellis system. Because that trellis system that the vines are supported by enables them to produce really a lot of fruit. It's vital for the production of fruit. And similarly, a marriage needs a network of support if we're to work through the challenges that we will all face and to thrive over a lifetime. And a marriage can't survive in isolation. The support network may come from friends, it may come from family, it may come from an older married couple who act as a model, as mentors, as encouragers to you in your marriage. But as well as having these other support networks, it is absolutely essential that we support each other. And all of us will face some challenges, and some very big challenges throughout our marriage. And it may be things like Nicki mentioned yesterday, serious illness, financial or job insecurity, bereavement, all kinds of different things, and different stages. The empty nest system, empty nest season, where our children leave home and suddenly it's a whole different way of living. Personally, for me, I found one of the most challenging times was when we had 4 teenagers in our home. And I loved parenting younger children, but oh my goodness, when it got to them being teenagers, I was out of my depth. And interestingly, that's when Nicki came into his own. And he loved parenting teenagers. So I really needed his help. I was far too sort of stressed with them. I was far too controlling with them. I was far too anxious about them and what they were up to. And Nicki was an amazing support for me and helped me and encouraged me and helped me to change in the way that I parented. And I valued that support more than anything. If we try to deal with fears, difficulties, challenges on our own, what happens is we lose connection. Within our marriage, we become individuals again. And whereas when we support each other, those very challenges that we are facing actually bring us closer together. We want you to hear from another couple called Pam and Neil.
Soy Pam y él es Neil.
Sí.
Y lo conocí...
Cuando teníamos 20.
Así es, eso fue hace 29 años. Y nos conocimos en un lugar de la costa este de Fife, en Escocia. Sí, creo que el desafío más grande que enfrentamos es que ambos nos casamos pensando que tendríamos una familia y eso no fue lo que pasó. Y como mujer tienes existe un instinto con el deseo de ser mamá, de tener un bebé, pero creo que lo principal fue la pérdida de ese sueño. Hemos tenido que vivirlo juntos.
Yo tenía expectativas en las que tal vez una de mis hijas se casaría y yo le entregaría en el altar, o no sé, tal vez la graduación de un hijo o algo así.
Una persona me dio un consejo bastante útil cuando estaba desahogándome por esto un día. Y me dijo, no son solo tus brazos, Pam, que están vacíos. Los brazos de Neil también. Y de nuevo, el cambiar la atención de mi persona hacia la otra, creo que fue de mucha ayuda.
Sí, hubo un momento muy importante en el que tuve que profundizar en mí mismo para apoyarla porque estaba a punto de enloquecer en algunos momentos. Eso fue algo que nos unió mucho más, nos acercó más.
Lo que aprendí de Neil es que estuvo ahí, fue completamente confiable y fuerte en eso. Y a pesar de esos momentos de vulnerabilidad, creo que fuiste muy fuerte cuando necesité que fueras fuerte. Creo que tuvimos que mantener una comunicación abierta entre nosotros, porque habría sido muy sencillo no compartir, retraerse o culparnos. Definitivamente nos hizo más fuertes.
Sí.
So we want you to have another opportunity to talk together as a couple now. So if you take your journal and you'll see conversation 2. And what we suggest that you do is you talk about any pressures or challenges that you've already had in your relationship and in the past, you've worked through it. And then just talk for a minute about if there are any pressures or challenges that you're facing right now. And ask your partner, in what ways could I support you in working through this challenge right now? And we're going to give you, I'm sorry, I got it wrong, 5 minutes for this conversation, but then the next time it's longer. So we'll give you 5 minutes to do that.
The fourth analogy from tending a vineyard is renewing. At the end of the growing season, the vine is pruned and just reduced to a stem and a few bare branches. And it may look like during all the season of winter, not a lot is going on with the vine until the buds appear the next spring. But actually, that's not the case. This is a really important time for the vine, when it's renewing its strength, it's fed with compost, it's pushing its roots deeper into the soil. And just as a vine needs renewing, so every marriage needs time of renewing. And that means continually taking care of our relationship, and especially when we reach a new season in our marriage. It means being prepared to talk about our own individual needs and desires. It means sharing with our partner our hopes for our future together. And sometimes it means slowing down, stopping certain things in order to have more time together. And you know, the marriage course for many couples is the time when they renew. They talk about what is important to them. And sometimes change starts just from one conversation they have.
And if you are struggling in your marriage, we want to encourage you that change and reconnection really is possible. You know, when things are difficult, it can seem like there's a kind of invisible wall that grows up between us. And, you know, it's usually made up of small, silly, hurtful things, misunderstandings that have just built one on top of the other. But we've seen when couples have tended their relationship, when they've sought to reconnect, actually things can change dramatically and they can go on to experience a whole new closeness and intimacy in their marriage. We want you to hear now from a couple called Eric and June. And Eric and June, as with all the couples, have done the marriage course themselves, and they're talking about the impact. Eric and June are talking about the impact of when they reconnected during the marriage course.
Hubo un momento en nuestro matrimonio en que empezamos a alejarnos. Terminamos pasando 8 meses separados. Era como construir una pared porque dejábamos de comunicarnos. Y cada vez que se hacía una burla indirecta o broma sarcástica a costa del otro, era otro ladrillo en la pared, hasta que con el tiempo la pared era muy alta y ni siquiera podíamos ver del otro lado, mucho menos vernos a nosotros del otro lado. Logramos derribar esa pared a través de la comunicación, entendiendo que nos amábamos y que queríamos que funcionara el matrimonio. Tuvimos que ser humildes, reconocer nuestros errores y aceptar la responsabilidad. Juntos logramos, ladrillo por ladrillo, derribar la pared hasta poder vernos realmente otra vez.
Creo que yo tuve que entender que quiero que funcione el matrimonio. Pero eso significaba un cambio en nuestras actitudes el uno con el otro. Creo que tuvimos que establecer la confianza entre nosotros para empezar a comunicarnos y cortejarnos otra vez y divertirnos de nuevo. Y volver a construir lo nuestro de forma lenta y agradable. Sí.
Ya no había diversión.
Sí.
Y volvimos a reír otra vez.
We want you to turn, please, to the next conversation 3. And this time, we want you to write something before you start talking together. Can you check that each of you have got one of these, please? And if there's somebody who can just bring them around, so you need 2 per couple. If there are some spare ones, there's one man at the front here who needs one. Thank you so much. And just put a hand up if you need one. And Our encouragement to you when you're doing this is to be honest. This is just a snapshot of your relationship now. It's not a permanent record of it at all. And the purpose is to affirm what's good and then to discuss what's not working so well. Now, when you're doing this, don't attack your partner. Rather, as you stand back, start to see some trends in your relationship. Look at what you could do different to change it. If you've got that conversation 3, what you do is you put a number in the box beside each of these statements. And if you think the statement is true, you can put up to 5, I can't quite see. Up to 4. Put 0 if it's never true, 1 if it's rarely true, and so on. Fill it in, and then turn over the page for the instructions, okay? And we're going to give you 20 minutes this time to do this conversation.
Para los que acaban de llegar, el ejercicio que estamos realizando ahorita es en pareja, los que vienen en pareja y los que no, es con los 2 o 3 que tengan ahí alrededor, y está en la página donde dice, en su folletito donde dice sesión 1, ejercicio 3. Ahí lo pueden encontrar las instrucciones y lo que tienen que escribir y llenar. Cualquier duda, por acá me preguntan.
We recognise that for some of you, you may not have had enough time to complete this conversation, and our encouragement to you is please continue this conversation outside of here, maybe on the way home this evening or some other time. Set aside time to complete this conversation that has started. And when some of you saw your partner's answers, it may have been a bit of a surprise or even a shock for some of you, and we just want to encourage you, don't worry about that. Actually, it is much, much better to have these things out in the open, being honest with our partner, and then we are able to connect and communicate about them. And the potential for better understanding between us, which is what it's all about. We're going to spend the rest of this session talking about two particular areas that you can start to do straight away in your relationship to build connection between you as a couple. And the first is to spend quality time together. And to spend quality time together on a regular basis, not once in a blue moon. Now, making time for the people who matter most in our life doesn't just happen. It requires a conscious decision. And we can so easily say, oh, we'll have some quality time next week, next month, and when life is not so busy. And what happens? It never happens. It's amazing how we can fit in time for urgent things at work, but we don't make time for the most important relationship of all, which is with our husband or wife. And you know, depriving a marriage of quality time together is like depriving a plant of water. If you do that, eventually the plant will wither and die. And it's exactly the same with our relationship. If we deny our relationship time together, we will lose connection. So, this quality time together, what does it do? Well, first of all, it keeps the fun, the friendship, and the romance alive in our relationship. It deepens our appreciation and understanding of one another, and it gives us the opportunity to communicate at a meaningful level in our relationship. Now, it took Nicki and I a while to realise that if we were ever going to have this time together, not just in our heads, but actually in reality, we were going to have to be intentional and plan it. We were going to have to organise it. And that, for us, meant putting aside a time every week into our diaries. And we call this time date night. I know that's not very original, but it is what we call it. It's our date night. And I can honestly say it's the single most important thing that we've sought to do in our marriage of 46 years to keep our relationship growing and our love deepening and moving forwards is having this date night once a week. And it's really a time, not an intense, heavy time, it's time to have fun together, time to relax together, time to do things that we both enjoy doing together. And for us, it always involves some kind of a meal. So, more often than not, it has been organising an evening together at home. We would cook a nice dinner, we would lay the table, put candles on the table, put on some music, put away our phones, back in the day, turn off the television, and just have a relaxing evening together. And when our children were very little, that was really what we did every week. We made sure that they were in bed. This was just time for us together as a couple. And I remember our kids noticing that. And now our kids are grown up and married, and they do date night. And they make sure their kids notice it too. Sometimes, of course, we will go out for a meal. We'll do something a little bit more special. But it's all about doing something that we both enjoy. For Nicki and I, that's lots and lots of different things. We love sport, we love being outside, so we might play tennis, we might go for a bike ride to a special cafe, we might make a picnic in the summertime and go exploring. We love exploring different parts of the city. We're great bikers. So it doesn't need to be expensive, but we do need to be creative. And I think what we would say is don't set the bar too high. People think date night has to be all bells and whistles, the tops, and it's expensive. No. It's just doing something fun, relaxing that we both enjoy together. We want you to hear now from a number of couples about their having date night.
¿Iniciamos?
Recuerdo que una vez salimos solo a tomar café. A mí me gusta salir a comer, pero él es un experto en presupuestos.
Una comida, café,
Sí, una comida, café. Es la verdad.
Eso nos recuerda quiénes éramos antes de casarnos y por qué nos sentimos atraídos el uno por el otro. Realmente ha marcado una diferencia para nosotros.
Es algo diferente.
Sí.
A las noches normales. Hacer una comida fácil, ordenar o que cocines, eso no va a pasar.
Sí, eso no pasa.
Tenemos tiempo para el matrimonio cada semana. Salimos a tomar café y pasamos tiempo juntos, hablando.
Hay algo hermoso aquí en México llamado pueblos mágicos, que son pueblos especiales. Nos encanta visitarlos.
Nuestro hijo nos enseñó a usar Netflix, entonces nuestro mundo se está expandiendo.
Se expandió. Lo hicimos una regla. Todos los lunes, todos saben que ese día Marquis, Prince salen y nadie podrá contactarnos.
Hemos tenido citas fallidas, pero incluso esa es una victoria. En San Valentín queríamos ver una película.
Era una película de terror y estuvimos ahí 10 minutos. Yo no pude con eso.
Estaba destrozada. Fue terrible.
Sí.
Todavía hablamos de eso.
Sí.
The older couple you saw there speaking, they have been married for over 50 years and they are living now in a retirement home and they still have the most wonderful, growing marriage. In our experience, investing in this weekly date together has prevented our relationship from becoming dull, boring, and routine. And it stops us from taking our relationship for granted. We can so easily take our relationship for granted, and it really, really helps us to stay connected. Now, it is a very simple concept, but actually it's really quite challenging to make it happen. And, yeah.
Perdón, es que estamos viendo que en la traducción algunos tienen su volumen muy alto y entonces las personas que no traen traductor están oyendo la traducción y a Nicki y a Sila. Entonces, si pudieran, por favor, bajarle un poquito cada quien a su volumen, ayudaría mucho para que los de juntos no estén oyendo la traducción. Muchas gracias.
So, yeah, there are some tips that we have to actually make this date night happen on a regular basis. It always requires effort, so these 3 tips are very helpful. And it's to plan it, to prioritize it, and to protect it. Now, with regards to the planning, it is absolutely the same as planning any other appointment. If you have a work meeting, if you have to go to the dentist, whatever it is, something at your child's school, you put it in your calendar. And with the date night, you put it in your calendar. Nicki and I put it in our calendar 3 months ahead. And we keep it absolutely in there, and we don't change it unless we discuss together. That's the golden rule. You don't change it unless, if you get a good invitation for that evening, you have to change it for another one, but not just not do it. The second is the prioritizing of it. You know, that means it's the most important commitment to stick to every week. It's more important than our work, going out with friends, playing sport, watching TV, decorating the house, even, and this is the big one, even over our children. And it's not that all those other things aren't important, but unless our date night is our priority, it simply will not happen, because all these other things will push it out. We think they are more important, but nothing is more important than spending time together, keeping that romance, that love, that connection, that communication alive in our relationship. The third tip is protect your marriage, time together. From all the other things that will conspire to stop it happening, and there are plenty, and it'll be unique for every single couple here. Certain things will be the big pressure for you not to have this time. And it could be other people, it could be your job, it could be the phone, it could be spending hours online on social media, watching sport, so many things. For Nicki and I, it was always the phone. As pastors, we had the phone ringing all the time. And we had to be very ruthless that on our date night, we put away our phones and we don't allow them to interrupt our time together. Now, effort is needed to do this, and creativity to keep it fun. And, you know, if you think about it, effort and creativity are what we pour into our relationship at the beginning. When we are in love, when we want to be together with this person, nobody else is important, but we can so easily let that slip. If we stop making that effort, then what happens is, gradually, we lose our connection. We want you to hear, again, from that older couple, John and Sally, talking about how they made this happen, and they're talking about the past.
Soy John y ella es Sally. Nos conocimos en la universidad en 1959.
Yo había visto su foto. Estaba en una obra en la Universidad de Wisconsin y me gustó su foto. Creo que en cuanto a tiempo de calidad, cuando él estaba ocupado, hacíamos lo que podíamos para remediarlo. No siempre era posible.
Hubo un momento en el que llegué a trabajar 65 o 70 horas a la semana. Todavía lo recuerdo. Y esto duró mucho tiempo. Hablábamos, pero sobre cosas muy prácticas. No olvido que fue la primera vez que nos fuimos de vacaciones sin los niños. Una joven pareja se quedó con los niños y fuimos a un hotel en México. Y yo recuerdo que me senté en la sala y miré al otro lado de la mesa y entonces pensé, realmente no conozco a esta persona. Es como si nos hubiéramos conocido al principio y ahora se habían interpuesto tantas cosas que ya no hablábamos de asuntos que eran importantes. Creo que en algún punto el matrimonio se había desgastado y ese había sido su final.
No recuerdo esa época tan significativa como tú, pero me alegra que pasara. Eso yo no lo sabía.
Bueno, creo que en realidad fue una llamada de atención. En cierto sentido, creo que fue lo mejor que le pasó a nuestro matrimonio, porque cuando regresamos de estas vacaciones, decidimos establecer una hora durante la semana para estar solos y hablar de cosas que no fueran los niños, la escuela y el trabajo, ni la lista del supermercado o esas cosas. Con frecuencia pensaba qué habría pasado de no haber tenido ese momento y ese entendimiento. En realidad fue un momento fantástico.
So we want you to do the fourth conversation, and we want you to turn to your partner and take it in turns to tell each other what have been the most special times that you have shared together as a couple, and be really specific about it. When it was, where you were, what you were doing, why it was so special for you. We're going to give you just 5 minutes, so you each have 2.5 minutes. And really listen, because you might be surprised by what your partner tells you.
I want to look at the second way we can strengthen or restore the connection between us as a couple. And again, as Sila said, this is something you can start right away today. And this is to nurture each other. Nurturing each other involves seeking to meet each other's emotional needs. And whatever those are for, and they'll be different for each one of us. It may be a need of affection or encouragement or comfort or support. Every one of us has this longing to be known and to be loved inside. It's as though there is an empty space inside us that needs to be filled up with love. And I want to use a very simple visual aid. I want you to imagine that this glass represents that empty space inside us. And, you know, a new kitchen, a promotion at work, the best holiday in the world is not going to fill up this space. And that's because you and I are made for close relationships. You see that right at the start of the Bible. You have the account of the creation. Everything is described as good. But you get to the second chapter, and God says it is not good for the man to be alone. And then God creates Eve and presents Adam with his new wife. And at that moment, that space, inside Adam, that empty space, is filled right up to the very top. That's what happens when we are in relationship, in a close, intimate relationship with another person, when we are known and loved. That's why when Adam is presented with his wife Eve, he bursts out with that excitement. Here at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Here is someone like him. Here is someone who knows him, who understands him, with whom he can build a close, intimate relationship. And that's what happens when you or I fall in love. When we get married, get together with this other person. But in marriage, it's not automatic. It doesn't stay like this. In a marriage, we can go back to feeling alone or lonely. And the way that we keep filling this space inside is when we discover each other's emotional needs and when we fill them. And as I said, those needs will be different for each one of us. And we have to discover what is important to our partner. What do they most need? Is it that they most need our words of affection? Is it that they most need our physical touch? Is it that they need our encouragement, our support, our comfort, whatever it is? We must discover from them. We can't guess. We won't know unless they tell us and we tell them. When we... This takes a lot of coordination, which is the most difficult bit of the marriage course. It's when we know each other's emotional needs, then that space inside is filled right up. Again, needs change over time. What was important to us when we first got married may be different now. Needs change, and we have to go on talking. We want you to hear from a couple who did the marriage course in mainland China. The marriage course was approved by the Chinese government to be run all over China. And this is a couple called Sun and Junie.
Hemos estado casados por 15 años y tenemos 2 hijos. En el pasado, en realidad no podía escuchar o responder a todas sus necesidades. Cada vez que me compartía sus sentimientos, yo me quedaba completamente perplejo, porque no sabía cómo responder adecuadamente. Una vez le dolía el estómago, entonces se acercó y quería hablar de eso. Y dijo varias veces, amor, me duele el estómago. Como yo soy una persona muy racional, pensé, ¿qué debemos hacer? ¿Ir al hospital? ¿Esperamos? Entonces, ella me dijo, ¿puedes decirme algo que me reconforte? Le dije, ¿puedes enseñarme? ¿Cómo puedo decirte algo para que estés feliz? Y se enfadó conmigo. Dijo, no sabes reconfortarme. Descubrí que escuchar a otra persona y responder a otra persona puede ser muy sencillo. Empecé a repetir sus palabras, a afirmar sus sentimientos y a preguntarle ¿en qué necesitas ayuda? Ella estaba muy animada con esto. Dijo, sí, justamente así, si sigues haciendo eso me sentiré entendida, ya que estás entrando a mi mundo interior. Ahora empecé a usar el mismo método para expresar mis sentimientos y ella se sorprendió.
Entendí que no solo yo me sentía así, él también se sentía aislado dentro de su mundo de emociones.
En ese momento sentí que finalmente se unían nuestros corazones. Sí.
Can I say at this point a huge thank you to those who are working on production at the back. They are doing so well getting those clips and playing them. Thank you very much indeed, those of you who are working on the production today. I'm aware I made a mistake. I left out a clip, and we're going to go back to it and show it in one moment, Dr. Sue Johnson. But before we get to that, there are 2 ways that we can act in marriage. We can either be reactive or we can be proactive. And being reactive is when we focus on our partner's shortcomings, when we focus on what irritates us about our partner's behavior. And when we're reactive, that pushes us apart. We lose connection. Being proactive is when we focus on our partner's needs. And that draws us closer together because then we both feel loved. And you know what? When we feel loved, we feel like loving. And being proactive builds connection between us. We learnt a lot from a couple called David and Teresa Ferguson about emotional needs. And I remember David talking about a change in their marriage. He said this, for the first 15 years of our marriage, I focused on my needs and Teresa's faults. For the last 15, I have focused on Teresa's needs and my faults. And our marriage has been transformed. We all have these emotional needs. We might not have been very good at recognizing them. And usually our needs will not be the same as our husband or wife's. And what can happen sometimes is we try to show love to our partner by doing for them what really we want them to do for us. But if their needs are different to ours, it doesn't work. And it's a little bit like that's coordination for you. If we don't know our partner's emotional needs, or if we try to give only what we want to receive. It's like I'm trying to love, but most of my efforts are just being wasted. It's only when we know our partner's needs, then they feel loved. We want you to hear from Sue Johnson.
Debemos acercarnos a otras personas y que otras personas respondan a nuestra vida. La teoría del apego en la infancia se relaciona con el matrimonio, ya que básicamente nos dice nuestras vulnerabilidades y necesidades, y que éstas continúan en la edad adulta. Y nos habla sobre el drama básico que afecta nuestras relaciones amorosas, las consecuencias de que una pareja no pueda reconocer las necesidades del otro es que ellos cada vez se desconectan más uno del otro. Hemos descubierto a través de nuestra investigación que el problema clave del fracaso de un matrimonio no es el conflicto. Todos tenemos conflictos, todos tenemos diferencias. El problema clave es la desconexión emocional. El aislamiento destruye un matrimonio, vuelve loca a la gente estar en una relación donde su añoranza es la de una conexión, donde esperan cierta clase de cercanía y que esa persona esté fuera de alcance. Estas necesidades no son complicadas. Eso es lo fascinante, no lo son, pero son emocionales. Y debes lidiar con ellas en un nivel emocional.
We want you to do the last conversation this morning, and I think this one might be the most significant of all for you, because you are going to find out how well you know your partner's emotional needs. Turn to conversation 5, and you'll see there are 2 columns. It's column A and column B. In column A, we want you to look at that list of 16 needs or desires and put the 3 that are most important for you in order. Number 1, the most important. Number 2, second most important. Number 3. And there's some overlap between them, but just choose the ones that you would most like to receive from your partner. Then, in column B, don't look at what they've written. Try to guess which are the 3 most important to them. Then when you've both finished, you can exchange your bits of paper, your journals, and see what you've each put. We're going to give you 10 minutes for this last conversation.
We have a few more things we're going to say, but before every session, at every session of the marriage course, we will always conclude the evening with a short prayer. So I'm going to pray a short prayer now, but then I'm going to hand to Nicki because there's a couple of other things we wanted to say to you specifically. So please stay just as you are while I pray. Thank you, Lord, that you are the God of love, the God who created marriage for us. Thank you that you've given us to each other. We want to ask that you would help each couple here grow in their understanding of their partner and help them to recognize each other's needs so that their love for one another would grow stronger and deeper. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. And we just want to say, if this is your first experience of the marriage course, we would want to encourage you to complete the marriage course, to find out where there is a marriage course running, and you can do that in your booklet. And to say, if you have done the marriage course, I know a number of you here have done the marriage course, we would want to encourage you to think about hosting a marriage course for other couples. It is very easy. You do not have to have any qualifications other than you have a passion to support and encourage other couples, and that you've done the marriage course yourself and you know the benefit in your own relationship. So we would encourage you to do that, and you can host it either online or you can host it in your home or in your church or some other venue.
I want to finish just by showing you one last diagram. Actually, the diagram is in your notes, but there's a picture of it here. And the reason for showing you this is because the marriage course is one course amongst a number of courses that have started in our church back in London. Alpha, you may know about, a course which is about the basics of the Christian faith. Many millions of people, nearly 30 million people worldwide have done Alpha, and it has introduced them to a personal relationship with Jesus. That is a wonderful course. But some people, first of all, they do the pre-marriage course. This one, which is for either couples who are engaged or for couples who are wanting to explore marriage. And we've been running this course 3 times a year in our church in London for the last 37 years. And when we run it, we have about 150, 160 couples. This is pre-pandemic. Now we have lots of them doing it online as well. And of those 160 couples, up to half of them would not be churchgoers, but they come and they love doing the course. I want to invite Raphael and Dominique because we just saw them this morning, and they have very recently done this pre-marriage course. Now Raphael and Dominique. I need to explain, first of all, Dominique lives here in Mexico City. Raphael is from Colombia. Yeah. That is right. How many years have you been in a relationship with each other?
4 years.
4 years, yeah. And why did you decide to do the pre-marriage course?
Well, we have some years going in a relationship, so we thought it was a good idea to have the course and really think about our future together. So to know each other, to have good conversations, and looking into the future.
And Raphael, how did you do the course?
We did the course online, so Bob and Anna, they run the course, they organize it, and I think that for us, at first it was a little bit funny and tricky because, it's not always your parents-in-law who are giving the pre-marriage course.
I didn't give that bit away, Raphael, but you have now. Dominique is Anna's daughter.
And there's lots of tools out there, but just as the pre-marriage course has been great for us, it has really helped us to deepen into the relationship. We were from, I think that we did it on the pandemic, right? Oh, okay. And But we lived a period of time, like 9 months, almost 10 months, where we couldn't see each other. Because I currently live in Bogota, she lives here in Mexico. And after that, it was a hard period for the relationship, and that pre-marriage course really helped us to see where we are and where do we want to go, how do we can project our life, and so on.
Raphael and Dominic, just before you go, just tell me, what was it like having those conversations with Raphael, the ones that came up on the course? What did it make you feel?
Well, it was really interesting. I mean, there were some things that we had talked before, but there were some that we didn't. So some were at the beginning, of course, uncomfortable, but then it was really fruitful because we really learned to know each other better. So I think it was really, really good. And one fun fact is that when we were doing the course together, we were like 5 couples, and I think two of those couples broke up during the course. So I mean, that's a good thing too, right? Like you really get to know who you are with, and really if you want to spend more time or the rest of your life with that person. So I think that was a really good thing about the conversations.
Raphael, one last question. Did the course bring you closer together?
Yes, definitely, because I think that at some point, every kind of relationship, when it's just boyfriend and girlfriend, you just live the moment, you know? Going out on a date, looking for the next movie, for us, looking for the next time where we see in Bogota or in Mexico, but that really helped us to go deeper into the relationship and have like more profound roots to just keep building on and on.
Raphael and Dominic, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicki. Thanks, Sila.
New couples like Dominic and Raphael doing the pre-marriage course, and we always say to them at the end, come back to do the marriage course 2 years into your marriage, because we want to help couples in the early years of their marriage to build good foundations. And if couples do this course, then 2 years into marriage do this. They build real strength, because prevention is always better than cure. But we also, on these courses, we talk very personally about our own Christian faith. And many couples who come then might start to come to the church, to a Sunday service, or they might go from these courses to do Alpha, because they want to explore the Christian faith further. And then they do Alpha, and then they become part of the church. Or they might come first to do one of the parenting courses. We do one parenting course for parents with children 10 and under, one with parents with teenagers. And on this course, it's very practical, like the marriage course, but we say, 2 things to them. One is, your relationship, if you're parenting as a couple, your relationship is the most significant thing for your children. And if you haven't done the marriage course yet, come to do the marriage course. They come from there to here. We also say, as parents, we pass on our beliefs and values to our children. Children are like sponges. They pick up our values and beliefs. It is so important, as parents, we think through what we believe, what our values are. We say there is another course, it's called Alpha. It's very helpful for parents, so they might go that way. So what you see from this diagram, people are going in all different directions. And we sometimes describe this, it is like a whirlpool, going round and round, drawing in people always from the edge. Many who are not part of the church, may not have a personal relationship with Jesus, but they come on one of these courses. And as in a whirlpool, it is always drawing things closer to the center. And at the center is Jesus. These courses work together to draw people closer to him. We want to hand back to Pablo.
Un mundo tan desafiante, nuestro reto es ser la luz, dar amor día con día.